Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all well. This is where I talk about the books that I'm reading. I like to read diverse books and I highlight Canadian literature. If you are new, thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today, I am finally doing another Tuesdays with Toni, which is the reading project that I am still working on. My friend AJ from AJ Dunn Reads and Writes, and I started this. We started this reading project over a year ago now, where we are reading all of Toni Morrison's novels in publication order. If I had stayed on schedule, I would have finished by, I think it was December. Now AJ has read all of the books and has been patiently waiting, and I am now catching up. So today I am talking about Love by Toni Morrison. I will leave a link to our introduction videos along with the playlist in the description box below, so you can check all of those out and see what we have read so far. You can follow along with what we've done, and I will also leave the reading schedule that I totally abandoned, but you can still see the books that we've read and that I still need to read. There's still a few more to go. This was the 8th book that we've read, and this was published in 2003, so 6 years after Paradise, her previous book. And Paradise was the end of the beloved trilogy. But as I was reading Love, I could see how, in some ways, this could be considered a continuation of those 3 books. I'm not sure that Toni Morrison would agree with me, or that she maybe thought that, but it follows many of the same themes. The central character, Bill Cozy, in some ways reminds me of Joe in Jazz. You know, Joe was loved by the people around him, even though he did some not so great things. He was, certainly a flawed character, and the same, I think, could be said about Bill Cozy. So the introduction of this reminded me of Jazz. It starts with music, and the writing is poetic, as Toni Morrison's writing is. So let me start by saying that this has been my least favorite Toni Morrison so far. That doesn't mean that it was bad, but I didn't love it like I have some of her other books. I also had to read this book again because it had been so long since I had originally read it for this project in this series. I will say that I got a lot more out of it on the reread, and probably if I were to read it again, I think I'd get even more out of it. And I think that's true for many, if not all, of Toni Morrison's books. They are so layered. And in many ways, Love is a really hard book to talk about without giving spoilers away. The first time I read it, I found it really difficult to follow. I would lose track of who is narrating the story because it goes all over the place, and who are they talking about, and I found that very frustrating. Going into it the second time, I approached it differently. So the central character is Bill Cozy. We never hear from him. This is not a spoiler, so I can tell you that Bill Cozy has died. We learn about him through his relationships with other people, mostly women, several women, and it kind of reminded me of the book Astra by Cedar. In that way, the story is told from the perspectives of so many different people, and that's how you understand who, this character is. So on the second read of Love, I got that. So it made it easier for me to appreciate what Toni Morrison was doing. Each chapter of the book focuses on Bill Cozy through a relationship. Chapters are named like friend, benefactor, stranger, lover, husband, guardian, things like that. And each person in this case, mostly women, as I said, tell their story of who Bill Cozy is to them. And eventually you get an understanding of who this character is with all of the good stuff and with all of his flaws. And Bill Cozy To some, in some ways, he's a hero. He's to be admired. He's a Black man who owns a hotel resort, and he gives jobs to people. He's an important figure in the community. To others, he is not someone to be admired at all. And if you haven't read this yet, my suggestion to you, for at least, I would say for the first half, maybe a little bit more, read each chapter as its own story. Then when you get to just over halfway through, the connections will start to come together, and who Bill Cozy is will start to take shape. It's not until that point that I really saw classic Toni Morrison shining through in a big way. How she drops things into the story that make you gasp and question yourself in the story. You know, like, he's the who, what now, and they did what, when, what. So the title of the story is also interesting too. It reminds me of the song The Rose. It's a beautiful song, and the word rose is only said once in the whole song. And in this book, the word love is only said once. And I saw this kind of as the fourth book in the Beloved trilogy because it was about love, and that's really what the trilogy to me was. It's different kinds of love. But Toni Morrison says in the preface of the book, and this is on Roman numeral 10. It says, "People tell me that I am always writing about love. Always, always love. I nod yes, but it isn't true. Not exactly. In fact, I am always writing about betrayal." And I love this. "Love is the weather. Betrayal is the lightning that cleaves and reveals it." Oh, I love that. It's so lyrical and profound in some ways. And I think it's such an interesting distinction that Toni Morrison makes. You know, can you have betrayal without some form of love? This is in some ways like a character study of Bill Cozy. The way he loved, the ways he betrayed, and some of the devastation that he left in his wake. So, as in all of Toni Morrison's books, the writing is incredible. It is lyrical, it has a rhythm, it's so beautiful. Also, like in all of Toni Morrison's books, she is, as AJ has said this a number of times, she is writing for Black women. And we see this character of Bill Cozy through the eyes and the lives of mostly Black women. Junior, Celestial, Vida, Christine, and others. And we see how the relationships with each other in some cases are also affected, and how each one of them decides to handle things in their own way. And Toni Morrison somehow gives them power. At the end of the introduction to the story, not to the book, because sometimes in the introduction to the book they put spoilers, but just as you're kind of starting into the book, Morrison has written, I think, a very compelling introduction, and then she ends it with this. It says, "Like a story that shows how brazen women can take a good man down, I can hum to that." So I liked that. This is one of those books that it would be good to have someone to talk to about it. Now, AJ may have reached out when they were reading it, but I don't remember. It would be good for, I think, a book club or a buddy read, because there were a number of times, especially on my second read, that I thought, I wonder what other people think of that in the story. So there's several things, that you can take away from this story for sure. So even though it wasn't my favorite, I think it's still worth a read. And I would say that reading these novels, especially as we are, that it makes sense in the trajectory of Morrison's work. And it really makes me curious about what's next. What are in these? There's 3 books left to read, and the book that's next is A Mercy. So I will be starting that soon, and I will do a review when I get it done. My hope is that, I'm not promising this though, is to finish the next 3 books in the next 2 months. So I won't keep this reading project going on forever and ever. Please let me know if you have read Love by Toni Morrison. You know, what did you think? And without giving spoilers, I don't know, it seems hard to me in this one, but without giving spoilers, what were your thoughts about the writing and the story? I look forward to chatting with you in the comments as always. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.